Thanks, everyone. Okay, this is going to be a lot of fun. All right. I don't want to fall off. Okay, so I'm Jason Rappaport. I'm the co-founder of Bird's Barbershop and Verb Products, and I am lucky enough to serve on the board of ISBN. I've been a longtime member. I'm really excited to be moderating this panel on industry trends with this amazing group. My goal today is to come away with some new ideas that would help us operate in this fast-moving and changing environment, and it's moving really quickly. Some of the topics we're going to discuss: technology, sustainability, new products and services, and how to incorporate them all into our business. So let me start with the panel intro. We'll start at the far end there. Jim Valenzuela, very successful founder of V's Barbershop. He's got 50 locations across. Hold your applause. Hold your applause. We'll ask for applause. He's got 50 locations across the country with many more on the way. To my left is Matt Danna. He's the co-founder and CEO of Boulevard. He is a great product mind and has deep insight into tech and data trends. It's really cool. Back on the other end is Wayne Grund. He's the co-founder and CEO of Surface Brands. He's a third-generation salon owner, an international hairstylist, and what he does well is he marries performance and sustainability and turns it into a high-functioning product. Not easy to do. And then over here we have Eileen Healy, who's the VP of Field Sales for L'Oreal. She has immense experience in all things pro beauty. Strategy is her expertise. And last but not least, Laura Lasley. She's the VP of Product Development for Ecofiber. She has 20 years of product development experience focusing on the development of skin formulations containing active cannabinoids. All right. So please welcome this esteemed panel, and we're going to dive right in. The first question I'm going to throw to Jim and Wayne, and I gave you a really easy softball one to get started. So how has your organization changed, adjusted, or tackled the stylist and employment shortages? Specifically, and then a second part to that, pre-pandemic, I was always a firm believer that, if we think about the hierarchy of needs, money was not at the top, culture was really important, but I'm not so sure anymore. So I'd like to hear how you feel, how does culture play into retention today as it did pre-pandemic?
Okay, well, it felt like a fastball,
Yeah.
And not a softball. In our little corner of the industry, we've always had our challenges on recruitment. Not so much on retention, but recruitment, because the part that really differentiated V's in the very beginning was shaving. And so in 1999, we came out and started shaving. We needed to find talent that could do that. And nobody was shaving back then. But it really allowed us to market the business in a way that was kind of romantic, kind of a Norman Rockwell visual we can put in people's minds. So we've always had these challenges, and the pandemic affected that in a way that was unique, and not only to us, but to everybody. And the way it was unique is we had people that were getting paid not to work. The government, in their wisdom, elongated the unemployment benefits to such a degree that it made sense for these people not to show up for work. And that just was foreign as an owner to us. Why wouldn't they want to work? These people were thinking about the next 24 hours instead of the next 24 years. And then we had them have very harsh opinions on whether they wanted to wear a mask. Half of them wanted to, and half of them didn't want to. And so you had that dynamic to play with. And so we had to figure out and get light on our feet. How do we play to that constituency so we can meet demand and run our shops? So we did it in three ways. The first is pricing. But we're in a W-2 commission model. And for those stores that started out with a lower commission rate and a lower price point, we were able to move both of those in tandem and offer a very good job and delight current staff and retain them. For those who started out at a higher commission rate, because market dictated that, only tool in our arsenal was to raise prices, and we've done that. And we've done it in a meaningful way across our platform, even to the point where it's very uncomfortable. We've had very deliberate over the years in raising prices. It always made me nervous, but lately, in order to keep up with inflation and what it's doing to the economy, we've done it very aggressively. Secondly, flexibility in scheduling. You know, in the barbershop world, you open at 8, you close at 6. You do that 5 days a week, 6 days a week, and on Sundays you shorten it up a bit. Guys were used to doing that until recently. You know, we got people coming in saying, you know, I want to work Tuesdays and Thursdays. I want to work 4 to 6, and that's all I want to work. And you scratch your head and say, how do I deal with it? Well, you have to deal with it if you want to run your stores. It's just a different dynamic than we've had to encounter in the past 23 years. Then the last, and this harkens back to our DNA, I came from the physician industry, and doctors wear white coats. And I brought that into the barbershop space because I thought it denoted a professional. But recently, people want to be individuals. They don't want to wear a white coat. They don't want to wear a black coat. They want to wear their tattoos and their piercings. They want to be themselves. And so I've had to adapt, you know, personally to that, and I have no problem with them, how they comport themselves, but the business had to change its values a bit in order to accommodate and keep our store staff. So that's how we've done it on retention and recruitment in current times.
Great, yeah, and flexibility is obviously key. Wayne, you want to touch on culture a little bit?
Culture is a big part of Surface. And it's slightly a different business model because we don't own the salons. My wife and I still own our salon of 43 years, so we test what works with us. But we support salons in creating a culture of hope. And one of the things I believe that people, when they look at their job or look at changing their job, is the grass is greener on the other side. You ever heard that? That you've all been there. But as long as you're presenting them with hope and a place they want to be a part of. So along with the finance, people really want to be a part of something. They want to have pride in the culture that they're a part of. And we've been authentic in the green world since 2008. And we really help the salons bring that to the forefront of being clean, green, with a high-quality product, and also be a part of something that's giving back. So we connect with the salons in a continuous way that we can help them partner with the Arbor Day Foundation to give back, you know, help them working within hair loss, as such. And it feels good to work in that salon. And I think that's something that's very, very, very important. And I love that phrase that we heard this weekend, is that, are you interested or committed? Do your employees know that you're committed to providing them a better life and income?
Right.
And then also, when you tie that to hope, is the soft skills. And one of the things we heard with Malcolm in the beginning, the red thread. Anybody else love that as much as I did? I mean, it was awesome. But guess what, guys? Young stylists coming to your salons, our salons, they don't know what the red thread is yet. They don't know they don't know the 20% of the day that they absolutely love yet. So we have to, I believe, help them discover that. And to help them discover that through a process of soft skill training. That it's the number one necessity right now going forward is, how do you welcome, how do you greet, how do you go through a discovery process? How do you review what happened with that guest? You know you got a great barber. You know you got a great hairdresser when a guest sits in the chair and goes, you know that thing you did last time? It's the thing. How many people have heard that before? The thing. Because that happened is last time that barber, that stylist told them what they were doing and they educated them. And then they looked at rebooking that appointment and they looked at purchasing that retail. So my message is taking a look at the culture and getting into the community. There has always been salons that have resumes this thick, and there's always been salons and barbershops that are looking for employees.
Right.
Stay connected with your high schools. Stay connected with your local beauty colleges.
Right.
And go out of your way to be able to do that.
Right, thanks. Matt, question for you. So talking about hiring and talking about retention, you know, we've all been through the hurricane of COVID, of laying everybody off and bringing everybody back and people moving in and out of the profession. What does retention look like now, and what sort of metrics, you know, are you following, you know, pre-COVID and today? What does it look like? What sort of data are you seeing coming out of Boulevard?
Recovery has been something that we've tracked very, very closely and been looking at it, you know, on a state-by-state, even geo-by-geo basis. And one of the things that we've noticed is that our businesses are back to about 90% of what they were. And when we started digging a little deeper to figure out, well, where's that remaining 10%, or why aren't they back to 105% or 110%? We did uncover that the labor shortage is real. Like their average number of stylists per salon was 11 previously. It's now down to 9. And so that remaining 10% is because of the decrease in staff. But it's also one of the interesting things that we saw is that while they're down 20% staff, each staff is up 15% in productivity. And so the average productivity was somewhere a little under 60% before COVID. After COVID, the average stylist is doing over 70% in productivity. So we're seeing that our salons are doing more with less, which is awesome to see, and interested to see how it kind of plays out with the talent piece.
Interesting. I'm seeing the same thing from a productivity perspective, but it seems like as you push to 80 and above, it's when you break a little bit. It's a bit much, so something to monitor, obviously. Laura, question for you. So the pandemic was a lot about self-help, a lot about wellness, so we moved away from styling and more about taking care of ourselves. What role do CBD products play in that? How were they used? And as we move back, transition out from the pandemic into sort of getting back to normal, will those wellness trends continue?
Yes, I think we're going to see CBD as a long-stay staple. We'll start looking at it as the new retinol, the new vitamin C, and it does take products to a new level because of the therapeutic value. So you can incorporate it into treatment as an add-on, and now you've taken that treatment from a treatment to a wellness and a therapeutic. So clients are willing to pay more for that, and I think they're expecting to see CBD on menus. I know in the massage world, we're starting to see a lot of CBD massage on the menu, and CBD massage is great not only for the receiver in helping the body to recover, arthritic pain, just dry skin, pruritus, dermatitis, all of those can be addressed by the CBD. And it's also going to help the service provider, the massage therapist, who's using her hands all day, hour after hour. So it's a win-win for the receiver and the giver.
That's really interesting. That never occurred to me. That's pretty cool. I also like referring to it as the new vitamin C. That works for me. Question for Eileen. So customer habits changed during the pandemic, obviously, as related to frequency, purchases, pre-booking, no-shows, all of it. How has it changed? What should we be doing to reestablish the old habits? Or do we not even want to worry about the old habits? Do we want to think about the new normal, as Scott said on the opening? And what new services or new ideas are you seeing coming from salons now?
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of, the numbers that you just asked about, so what we're seeing, I wrote down my numbers, is frequency is down by 20%. Pre-bookings pre-pandemic were 26% on average. Now they're up to 49%. Sadly, what has changed is that cancellations and no-shows are sharply up. So that's one of the interesting things that we've been seeing across the country and talking to our salon partners about. I was in Tampa a few weeks ago meeting with one of our salon partners, and he shared that he did the math and had lost $10,800 in 1 month due to no-shows and cancellations fees. Due to no-shows and cancellations, no fees. Last night I was talking to Lori and Holly, who are sitting right here at the front table, and we were having a similar conversation, and Holly shared with me that they did the math for their salons. It's horrifying. Over the course of 2021, they lost over $500,000 due to no-shows and cancellation fees. So that is the number of no-shows or cancellations times the average service minus what they charged for a fee, and that's where they got the just over $500,000. And I believe this year to date, I want to say you were around like 160 already. So, so real problem that needs to be addressed. What we're seeing across the country from our salon partners is people are now requiring a credit card on file before you have your service. And in addition, they are charging a cancellation fee. What seems to be most common, we're lucky enough to work with people across the country, is we're charging 50% of the service if you cancel within 24 hours, and then charging the full price of the service if you no-show. Now, a few caveats to that are, the other things that salon owners are telling us is that, now, if it's a great guest of mine, and they, life comes up, things happen, we certainly don't want to create friction. For that wonderful, loyal guest, we're going to make an exception. We will remind them that we have a cancellation policy, and if it happens again, there will be a fee, but we're going to not create that friction. In addition, another strategy I've heard many owners share is that they take the cancellation fee that they have charged and they apply it to their next service.
I like
so
that.
now we're making sure that we're bringing that guest back and we're applying that fee to the service. And then number 3, salons that are doing it really well are doing a great job keeping a wait list. So all those guests that you're not able to accommodate, you have on a wait list, and the minute you have a cancellation, you're plugging them in and filling that time slot. And in some cases, you're driving profit that way. So I've heard some owners share that by collecting cancellation fees and filling those slots, they're actually driving profit, which is interesting. So, and then to your last, one other point you made, as far as trends, I will say one thing that we're seeing salon owners, again, having great profit with, a new service on the menu, is 10-minute color. So we have Redken, obviously, and we have Color Gel's 10-minute color, liquid, fast application, beautiful product, great coverage, and this is a service that people are adding to their menus that guests want because they're time sensitive.
What do you charge for that? What's the price point?
Varies, obviously, by
varies.
your market, and your salon.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
Staying with you real quick. So obviously COVID pulled forward a lot of trends, a lot of it around technology as well. I know at our barbershops, we would be 60% every day would be walk-in or same-day call-ahead, and now we're 99% pre-booked, right? And we book out over a week, which I had never, in 15 years, had never happened. So maybe you and then Matt can touch a little bit on how technology has strengthened and supported the client experience. Maybe talk about client loyalty, bookings, pre-bookings, self-bookings. How has it all changed?
I know Matt has strong opinions on
Yeah, and and I'm imagining it's all here to stay, right? So we're kind of, we're living in the future now. So what do you think?
Yeah, so what's super interesting, so these are some numbers that were shared while we were here. There's been so many great presentations. This has been such a great meeting. So some numbers that I wrote down were 83% of guests want to book by phone, 79% want text reminders, and 64% will choose a salon because you have the ability to book online, right? So with that in mind, understanding how much people love to book online, how much they love to use their phone, again, a trend that we're seeing across the country is virtual consultations. And what I love that some of our salons have done is they've put this on their menu online. So for a new guest who's coming to the salon, we know one of the challenges with online booking, right, is having clear descriptions so that, my daughter was just telling me last week, you got to book me for a balayage, you got to book me for a balayage. I'm like, she doesn't actually get a balayage, but she likes to think that her highlights are a balayage. So again, like for the guest to make sure that they are choosing the right service, so we're booking out the right amount of time, and they have an expectation of what they're going to be paying for it. So I love the idea of having that online consultation as a service someone can choose 15 minutes and pay for it. Now, a lot of salons also share that they apply that towards the service when the guest shows up for the service. And then in addition, knowing people love to use their phones, so using text pictures as a way to accomplish the same thing. So for a new guest to have them take a picture of the side, hold it up to the sunlight, take a picture of the back, and then show the inspiration of where it is you're wanting to go. So again, you can confirm their appointment and make sure you've got the right amount of time booked, and they have an understanding of the range of pricing that they're going to receive.
Very cool. Matt, what's our new normal?
So, with the increased rate of productivity and utilization, it is really hard to get into the schedule. Like before COVID, we were seeing that 70-something% of appointments were happening within, or being booked within 48 hours of the start time of the appointment. So there was a lot of last-minute booking happening. But since a lot of stylists don't have the room, pre-booking is becoming much more important. I think one of the things that we want to continue to think about, though, is, when the front desk is like, for a brand new customer, like, should we put time on the calendar for, 4 weeks from now? Like, there needs to be interest, like high level of interest, and you can't just use pre-booking to like hold a time on the calendar, because that ends up ruining revenue. And so if there's a high likelihood that that customer is not going to show up or change that appointment, I recommend don't pre-book them, because there's an awkward amount of time that you need to then fill. So I think that there's a lot of things changing and moving. We have to look at the truths that this industry has held for a long time and reevaluate those constantly and then validate with data. So simple stuff like that.
Got it. Okay. Back to Jim and Wayne. This is a very broad question, but maybe you can focus in on how it affects you, maybe yourselves, and maybe actually what you're seeing in Canada. But how is regulation and licensing affecting our industry? Topics could be data privacy or employment law. What do you guys think?
Well, number one thing I see with the regulations and reducing hours is, and I'm happy to accept it as a manufacturer, is taking the responsibility to have the advanced level training. For example, if schools are dropping some texture training services, we're there to pick up the ball. We've got certification in curls. We've got certification in thinning hair. We've got the certifications in the scalp facial and treatments to get more into that theory. So obviously there's so many hours in a day. You want those bodies in there. You want it to make easier, but then somebody's got to pick up the ball to make sure the training is at the highest level out there. So I'll speak on behalf of our whole Surface team. We're just really happy to pick up that training ball to make sure that that person entering with those lower hours gets what they would want or need after.
Jim?
Well, I'm obviously in favor of regulation, but regulation that's consistent. There's some states where you have to have so much schooling, other states much less than that. You have some states, at least in the barbering industry, like Nevada, it's being run by a barber board out of the back of a barber shop. Not exactly a professional, organization. So to have that consistency to allow us all to play on the same level playing field is important. And the same, you asked about employment law, the same goes for those of us who play by the rules on a W-2 model and have to go compete against those that are paying under the table and not paying their fair share of taxes, which is just a burr under my saddle pad. It's we sleep at night, soundly, and we drive on the roads here in America, and we have safe streets, and our kids go to good schools, and there's people that take advantage of that without paying their fair share, and they're competing against us on a daily basis. So to root that out and have us all, pay our equitable share, I think is it's what America's about. It's not about gaming the system or hustling. It's about putting in a hard day's work and enjoying it and living in this great country. So that's a crusade we've been on for 25 years now, because it's just so persuasive in the barbershop end of the business.
Right. Excellent. Back to Laura. So talking a little bit more about CBD, so I feel like it was 4 or 5 years ago that CBD sort of arrived in mass in this country, and you saw it everywhere. I would go to coffee shops, and I would get offered, for $2 extra, they would use a tincture and put some drops of CBD in my coffee. Maybe you can explain actually just a little bit more about the benefits of CBD and maybe some more of the trends or the future uses that you think are not quite here, but where you envision it can be used and how it would benefit our industry.
Certainly. The Farm Bill in 2018 really opened up the network for CBD, and it can be used as an ingestible to alleviate, aches and pains. We've been doing a lot of research for different types of opportunities as far as opioid addiction, women's health issues. This company was founded by Barry Lambert, who was seeking a cure basically for his granddaughter who had a rare form of Dravet's syndrome, rare form of epilepsy. And that's where over $40 million in research has been spent to uncover all of the benefits of CBD. So the company started with the pharmaceuticals and working with topical roll-ons as well as the ingestibles for a nice combination of relief of aches and pains. And we're now moving into the skincare world, finding that it's such a fantastic antioxidant, it's anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial, so it can benefit every skin type. There's still a lot of education that needs to be done. I had a friend who's a very intelligent woman who knew that I was working with CBD, and she said to me, "Oh, I won't use CBD because it'll make me fat." And I had to think, what does that, where does that come from? And then I realized it's the correlation that people still think of CBD as the cannabis, the marijuana, has the THC, and it's going to get you high. So I explained to her that CBD can only have 0.3% THC. To give you an example, in the 60s and 70s, when cannabis, marijuana was having a heyday, the average THC levels were between 3 and 4%. In the 90s, it came in about 5 to 7%. Today, cannabis use for medicinal and recreational purposes is hitting 12%. And that's because of the seed genetics that is happening. That seed genetics and the farming techniques is also used to keep the hemp THC levels at a low. So it's important when you're seeking what CBD to use that your supplier can provide you with documentation. Documentation indicating the level of THC hasn't exceeded 0.3%. Documentation that shows you that the hemp plant hasn't absorbed toxic chemicals out of the soil. It is a bioaccumulator, so if it's not grown under organic standards, it could leach heavy metals, pesticides into your product. So you also want to request documentation to prove that the product is clean.
That's smart. Yep. Know your vendors. That's for sure. Very interesting. Okay. Eileen and Jim, let's talk about price. So when I think of a customer and what they spend, I think of a pie chart, and I think about what they spend on rent and what they spend on food and what they spend on gas. I know that that pie chart isn't necessarily growing for them, right? But the spend within it is, right? So as you know, as everything gets more expensive. So how are you thinking about price increases? You know, we've all taken price over the last few years, I would imagine. I know we have several times, 3 or 4. How are you making the decision? How much? How do you decide? What data or information do you review? Are there any other inputs that you think about before you decide to raise a price? How do you advise going about that?
Well, you're sitting on? All right. Well, I'm not a salon owner, so as a partner to our salons, what our recommendation is that, you know, consistently, you're always raising your prices once a year, and that means that we're in 2022 now, right? So. There go my glasses. We're in 2022 now, so thank you, Wayne. So that means that you should have raised your prices 3 times since we reopened, right? 2020, 2021, 2022, 3 times, 3 increases. So by doing this consistently, you can provide a more smaller, palatable price increase for your guest. That being said, right now, obviously, we're in a unique time with, you know, wage pressure being what it is, compounded by inflation being what it is. So, you know, this is a year where it may make sense to look and have a more significant price increase or do a price increase split up twice over the course of the year so that the customer doesn't feel it as much.
Well, I think we're in a time right now that we've been giving, like never before, maybe since the early 70s, cover to raise our prices. You can do it because everybody's looking at the gas pump. Everywhere they look, inflation is wreaking havoc on their budgets. And so if you want to raise prices, now's the time to do it. And you can do it without explanation, you can do it without worry, and you can do it without asking forgiveness. It's time to do it. A couple of instances we've had to do it almost emergently because people have come in to rate our staffs, and they have higher price points, and they're sharing that with the barbers, and the barbers are strictly willing to move on price. Forget the culture. I want to make more money. And so we've had to emergently do that. And I'm talking about big increases, like $10, $15 for a haircut to take us up to market. And we really didn't understand in those markets where we stood and the immediate competition. And so we had to jack prices and then say a prayer that the patrons understood. And so we don't know the result of that yet, but we're thinking, and there are other price increases, we've noticed no slippage whatsoever. They've been accepted. They've been actually kind of championed. I can't believe you guys haven't raised your prices before.
But just to push, not to push back, but so wage inflation is not keeping up with actual inflation, right? So people aren't earning more fast enough to keep up with all the other costs. So when do we get a point where trade down starts to happen, where they start to look to the value chains or a lower cost option? I know that typically within a recession, I think the frequency of visits lengthen out. That's a pretty common practice, something that I think I saw back in 2008. But I don't know if I saw a lot of trade down, but is there a point that the customer gets where they have to trade down?
There is. Obviously there is. There's some point where the value's not there anymore.
Right.
Fortunately for us, we play in an area where doctors and lawyers and business people that have that extra income, and they're raising their prices in their fields as well in order to keep up. Plus, we're aided by the fact that they're very sticky customers. I mean, they have a barber, and it's like their dentist. They're not going to move from that guy for anything. And so if we raise prices by $5 and the guy's a $500,000 a year physician, he can absorb that, and he's going to absorb it.
Right.
Now, it also gives us the chance to address staffs in a meaningful way, saying, you're getting a big raise, you guys got to earn it too. Best behaviors, yes ma'am, no sirs, thank yous. The experience becomes paramount when you raise prices, and it's a good time to enforce that.
Got it.
Can I add one thing to
Yeah,
that
for sure.
as well?
For sure.
One of the things that we believe in and really coach the salons to is you need your base level system, but don't peak it out. Just like people used to have a 3-page dress code, you used to have your 4 tiers, and then I'm leveled out. What's next? Where's my hope? And the most important thing that we coach people to track is hours of productivity. And not your treatments, nothing, it's just how many hours out of that books. What do we sell? We sell time. So if it's 5 hours a day, 8 hours a day, what's the percentage of that time that's being bought by people who are asking for that time over 3 months? So hours of productivity have really helped us in our salon over the past decades, but also the salons that we coach as well, because it gives that personalization at that high value to the people who are creating the wow factor.
Great. Matt, question for you. Let's talk about marketing a little bit. ROI, I've never understood how to measure our marketing spend. We do it thoughtfully. We think we target the right demographics, psychographics, but I never really know, right? Unless I hand someone a coupon and they come back in, I'm not exactly sure how effective it is. But now that our POS systems have marketing sort of integrated within it and it's sort of all housed within the database of our clients, it's maybe a little bit easier to track. So how do you think we should go about, or what's the right way to measure our digital marketing spend as we try to, keep our names in front of our clients?
Yeah, so I think you need to start with 162 variations of an ad and then go from there.
Right. I'm going to get on that tomorrow morning.
I think there's a few things to think about with marketing. First is customer acquisition, right? So in the way that you want to think about customer acquisition is you want to have your Google ratings, you want to be on Yelp, you want to have an Instagram, right? Like all these different channels of acquisition. But most importantly, you want to actually track that channel. So when a new customer is coming in to book, you need to find out what was the source of that customer. Like, did they come from an ad? Were they a referral? Or was it a client that like the stylist themselves brought in? You need to track all of that and log it on the client profile. And most systems, I think, are capable of that. And if not, then you could probably get creative and do some workarounds or add a tag or something. But you need to understand your channel mix and the different sources that you're getting your customers from. And that's the most important factor in determining ROI. And like the other speaker said a couple days ago, is like the channel, whatever channels you're advertising on, are probably not the right channels, or at least to the right spend.
Thank you.
And so looking at how many customers are coming in, and then also looking at the lifetime value of those customers. And so like, are you getting really, really high value customers from Instagram? Maybe it's Pinterest, I don't know. But you have to look at not only just the first visit, but the lifetime value of the customer. And the second piece of marketing is driving the lifetime value of the customer higher over time. And so I'm a big fan of what's called land and expand, where you will land a customer and just get them to come back for another service, and then you can start to expand the value of that client over time to the business. And so really looking at marketing holistically, customer acquisition, retention, and really knowing your channel breakdown, most important.
Got it. Makes sense. Eileen, as you sort of look out and are you in touch with your salon partners, what new tools are they using to drive guests?
Yeah, so I thought of this as you were talking. One of the things that I think is most exciting that we're seeing many of our salons really drive is 5-star Google reviews. Which I think what's exciting about it is, obviously right now guest count is not necessarily the biggest problem, but it will be again someday. But recruitment of staff is. So having 5-star Google reviews impacts both, right? If you think about where a student is finding you, it's either right at their cosmetology school through Instagram, but what's the next place they go? They Google you, right? And they read your reviews. Now, if you're thinking of a guest, they're finding you through a referral, through Instagram, wherever they're finding you. What's the first thing they do? They Google you and read your reviews. So the 5-star review impacts both new talent as well as new guests. What we're seeing salons doing that's really exciting is really taking control of this and driving this through using their software in a couple of ways, but one way is through software. So they are making sure that when a guest leaves the salon, they're getting the opportunity to leave a review. And then there's a second layer to the process so that they are able to flag and understand. We saw the data yesterday. I think they said that 75% of people won't go to a business that has less than 4 stars.
Right.
And 30% of people won't go to a business that has less than 4.5 stars, right? So knowing that's what people are looking for, after they write the review, you now have it set up where they will get a second text depending on whatever you want it to be. So if they gave you a 4-star review, a 5-star review, or a 5-star review, and that second text, and I've received them from the guy who put turf in my yard, as well as from a salon, says, you're almost there, one more step. Click here, very simple, no friction. Click here to post your review on Google, Yelp, Facebook, etc. So a really easy way to kind of stack the deck, load the cards, and get that 5-star review, which is quite brilliant.
It's really interesting. I spend so much time pulling my hair out, trying to think of new ways to market. Should I send a drone out to someone's, house? But really, all I need to do, yes. But really, all I need to do is, make sure that my reviews are 4 and 5 star. It's like, it's what's old is new again, right?
100%.
Like that basic blocking and tackling is just so important.
100%. And I've
agree.
heard from some salon owners who instead base it on the tip. So anyone who leaves, and this is a salon owner in particular that I'm thinking of, who shared that he has 1,900 5-star reviews and 500 new guests a month. And he bases it on the tip. So anyone that leaves 20% or greater, they receive the opportunity to leave a review because he's assuming
That's
they had a
interesting.
great experience. And then I'll add one other thing.
Sure.
So you said new technology. I'll also speak for a
Not
moment
drones?
about
No
about what?
Not drones? No drones?
Not well, maybe for Matt.
Maybe.
but
Okay, sorry.
he's a tech guy.
Okay.
But secondly is like old technology, which is our websites. I think we have spent so many years, all of us, brands, distributors, salons, being obsessed with social media, and social's obviously incredibly important for people to find us. But as I said before, whether it's new talent or it's a guest who's finding you, the first thing they do is Google you and read your reviews. And what's the next thing they do? They go where? Your website, right? They go to your website next. So if you designed your website years ago and are not paying attention to it and keeping it current and making sure it's telling the story to the new talent or the guest that you needed to tell, maybe it's time to revisit that because it's a very important piece of the puzzle as well.
That makes sense.
The other thing, just to chime in.
Sure.
We do our fair share of marketing just like everybody else. But, call me old school. Every town has got a restaurant that's kind of off a side street, and there's a line out the door. And it's a line out there every day. It's because some magic's going on in the four walls. The culture is resonating. And that's the strongest marketing that I know of, that you look at others and say, I covet that. And that's hard to do within those four walls. But if you can pull it off, you really got something. Forget reviews, forget anything. You got something.
Yeah.
Because that word will travel.
Yeah?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more because, one of the things that we always talk about, we have a program called Salon Emotion, and it's about the 7 steps to the guest experience from the minute they view you through your digital window, so that would be social, website, et cetera, all the way to the checkout and what happens after that. So kind of like the 160 days today.
Yep.
And one of the things that always rings so true for me is that the average guest does not know the difference between an A+ haircut or color service and a B+ haircut or color service. But what they 100% know is how you made them feel.
Right.
Right? And that's what they leave with, and that's what they tell their friends about, and that's what brings them back. And that's what gets them to refer their friends, right? So the guest experience is ultimately, the most
Culture.
important thing.
Yeah.
Culture's everything.
The haircut matters, but there's a lot more going on, for sure. Okay, Laura, back to you. As CBD evolves, becomes more, cleaner and more efficacious and specialized. If you were going to open a salon or a spa today, what products would you be carrying, and what products do you think are going to be there, maybe a year or two out? What interesting things do you see on the horizon for retail in the CBD space?
Well, we're getting really good results with scalp and the skinification of the scalp. So that's a great opportunity when you've got your client in the chair that's maybe just had a color and a cut, and the scalp's been exposed to chemicals and could be a little irritated. So that's when you could offer that add-on saying, CBD massage, scalp massage is going to calm the scalp, rebalance the microflora of the scalp, and then you can be talking to your client at this time about the benefits of using that scalp treatment on a daily basis, or areas of thinning hair will be redensified and the hair is going to be thicker and shinier and healthier. The scalp will have less flaking, less itchiness, and so you're kind of setting that up for a take-home sale.
Got it.
So I think there's a lot of potential there with the scalp. Facials are becoming very popular. You can do an entire CBD-inspired facial where you're layering. We're seeing really good results with the use of modalities, laser resurfacing and the microneedling, and then the redness and the irritation that's left behind, that tight feeling. And applying a CBD serum after that, within 20 minutes, we're getting really great reduction in the redness, and the skin's feeling less taut and more relaxed. And then again, also, that serum can go home with your client to continue the healing process. It's excellent for sensitive skin, skins with barrier issues. rosacea type skins. So there's so many places, so many opportunities for skincare.
Got it. Super interesting. Lots of practical uses, and I expect to see a lot more of CBD in the salon space. Okay, last question, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. Wayne, for you, service mix. It's always changing. It's moving. People do all sorts of different things depending upon the trend. What are you seeing right now as sort of your fastest grower in terms of service mix? And then what trends are you seeing that are interesting, whether it be like gray coverage, men's color, blowouts, facial services, lash, eyebrow? What's going on in your salon right now?
Well, there's a wonderful book out there called The Challenge is the Way. And on the other side of the challenge, a big, huge opportunity, and put a smile on our face and actually the banker's face, was treatments. In August of 2020, our treatment sales, which were in the masks and our scalp facial or awaken products, were up 44 points. Now, was it a fad? No, wellness was here to stay. And the past year, again, on top of that 44, another 29 up in points on treatments. And it was a matter of identifying that people would spend a little bit extra time on themselves and just having something that is fast. Didn't have to book an extra time. If I can incorporate the product within the visit to the barbershop or to the salon, I'll buy it now. I don't have to rebook. How does it make me feel right away? Do I see results? Yes, check. I really like that. Can I take it home? It was huge for us and for our salons. When it comes into color, tremendous opportunity again in the natural tonings, in the hybrid demis that allow a light fadage of gray to come through so you don't have that hard demarcation line. So you're finding we're finding color happening actually more often, but it's more of a blending base that's through. In the men's world, also very quick, something that can happen in just, you said the 10-minute, even a glaze at the chair. So those opportunities have really, really, really opened up a ton for us. The color world in the natural base for us has been tremendous because people now are asking what's in it. Is it free of PPD? Is it free of ammonia? What is your delivery system? And that awareness level hasn't taken other color out of the salon, but it's allowed another need to sit beside it. For that one guest that wants that option that's hypoallergenic, it can sit along what was there in the past. So a lot of exciting opportunity in that way. But please, if you're not on top of really quick, fast treatments in your salons that can happen right now, get there because it's a gold mine.
Very interesting. Yeah, ingredients matter for sure, and those quick services, they flow pretty quickly to the bottom line. That's really awesome. Okay, any last comments that any of you guys want to share? Any last parting words before we ask the audience for their questions? All good? Said it all? Yeah, let's hear it.
I have one thing I'll share.
Let's hear it.
This is just related to retail. I had wanted to talk about Salon Interactive, but I looked on many of your websites and saw most of you are already retailing online. So I wanted to, through your websites. So I wanted to share just kind of a key finding that we are discovering about online sales, and that is that creating an online store is obviously, a wonderful thing to do. However, it's like putting retail on a wall without, recommendations. It doesn't necessarily do all that it can do unless you put systems around it. So one example I'd love to share with all of you, if you choose to take it, is to help grow the online presence or the online sale and awareness, right, to your guests that you have an online store, is to put simple practices in place. An example of one that we have found to be really successful is any guest that leaves the salon without retail products, that
Is
again,
shot.
going back to that day 2, day 3, day 4, that they receive a text the next day from you saying, Lori, it was great to see you. We hope you love your look as much as we do. This is what Eileen used on you yesterday. If you'd like us to ship any of these to you, click here. And just make it that simple for them to discover your store and make a purchase.
I like it. I like
Systems.
it. Yep. Thank you. All right. You can hold on to that for a second. All right. So questions. I think we're a small group. I think there's going to be a microphone to pass around, possibly. Otherwise, you want to stand up and shout it out. I'm sure we'll hear it. Anything for the panel?
Or private-owned salons like us. Are you hiring people full-time for social media? And on average, like, what is a reasonable, how do you pay them? Do you do hourly, do you do salary? Like, what is, because I feel like you get what you pay for. So to really hire someone that actually knows a lot about it and has learned a lot, what's a reasonable amount, like on average, that you would pay someone for that position?
Well, I don't know what the amount is, but we've done it in our platform kind of in a different way, kind of like everything we do. We hired marketing companies and it's a young man's game. It's not my game, so it wasn't supposed to be me doing it. So we hired people to do it. And then as the franchise grew, we noticed different results coming from different markets. And so we kind of migrated to those people and plucked them and said, what are you doing? Can you do it for the brand as a whole? And so we found opportunity in different markets where we weren't even looking. We just saw results coming from their work and then let them run. And so it's something that we outsource. I recently got asked by somebody, I was getting interviewed on British TV, and some guy said, if you had $1 million to pay somebody, who would you hire? And they were expecting me to say some hotshot barber. I'd probably hire some 22-year-old whiz on social media that really understood the game, that can create something viral for us, because it's hard to do. So I don't even know what we're paying them. I know we're not paying them a king's ransom, but these are young people that are turned on, that know how to play the game, and we give them the collateral to play it, and we give them the brand book and say, stay within brand, but then educate us, teach us how to play, and make us look good, and try to drive people into the stores. We've lost enough money. You're talking about ROI and marketing. We've hired enough, failure marketing companies to last us a lifetime and cost us a fortune. And in today's environment, having somebody who just understands that natively at 23, 24, 22, 18, let them go. Give them some rein and see where they take you.
In speaking to that, we managed that. Actually, our daughter managed it for us as a manufacturer for the longest time. And we had a pretty good following. We got some good traction with it. And then we did invest the dollars. And it was different as a manufacturer. And when we did, we did it in a very large way. But we did it to be able to support the salon world around us in creating asset management. And so what we do is we have an asset bank that salons can go to and pull from, and makes it look like you're spending your $1 million when in essence we are with it. So how do you partner with someone that can give you that easy access to it, but then you still need someone in-house to be able to manage? One other thing, it's very important in social media, I'm sure you guys have found, is to engage the people who want to be on it that are already your stylists or already your barbers. I mean, they're some of the superstars, and make sure that they've got a real easy voice to be able to access.
That comes with some risk, too.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
You
You don't know what they're putting out, and then, ego plays in our business, and
Yeah.
they get pretty, self-centered, and next thing you know, they want to go create their own brand. I mean, it's happened to us, and it's happened to everybody in the room, and so you got to be careful with how much rein you give to your staffs.
Yeah.
I'll say that we just recently at Birds outsourced it, our social media, and it's all about authenticity. Your clients can smell it really easily, and so it was really difficult to find somebody that would be consistent with a message. But we work very closely. We have a cadence of when they post, how they post, when they do it, what they respond to. But not easy to find. We did it in-house for a long time. We lost that person. And it's hard. It's really hard. But the first person may not be the right one. And I think we get 2 or 3 posts a week, and I think we spend $1,000 a month. I think that's what we spend for 9 shops. All right. Anything else? No. All right. Thanks again. You good?